there's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
This is Well Australian Women. Welcome to your full body health check. I'm Claire Murphy, asking all the questions to all the experts to get you the info you need about your very own body.
And I'm Dr. Mariam, GP, making sure that will be all the right info that you need about your body.
Hallelujah. Mariam, today we are talking about something that makes headlines like globally. It has been quite a shift in the conversation about weight. It feels like you fall into either of one of two camps where it comes to these things. We are either weight loss injections are the life-altering game changer we've all been waiting for, or you're in the camp, this is not right, you don't know what this means long-term for you, so be worried. So today we are going to get into the real nitty-gritty of semaglutide or GLP-1 agonists, which is a really fun word to say, to see what we actually know and what it means to be on them, and then maybe eventually get off them too, because a lot of the conversation is about when you stop using weight loss injections, about what that means for you and putting the weight straight back on. We'll also do a really quick consult for Maddie today. She has a phobia that is getting in the way of some pretty necessary surgery, a phobia that is so bad that she accidentally assaulted a nurse over it, and she feels really awful. But next, you've heard about the G-spot, right?
Have I heard about the G-spot?
I hope you're in touch with yours. Well, have you found your A-spot yet? What about your O-spot?
Tell me more.
I will. We're going on an erogenous zone hunt in today's trip to med school.
Welcome to med school.
Okay, a lot of discussion and research, Mariam, has gone into the elusive G-spot.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Grafenberg spot, which, of course, is named after a man, a German scientist, who hypothesized that this erogenous zone exists on the anterior or front wall of your vagina, hence the come hither motion, which people are told to use when using fingers.
Okay.
Because that apparently hits the G-spot.
Was there a study for this?
Of course there was a study. Someone invested money into this. But it does actually, and this is something I didn't know, it remains unproven in medical literature. So the G-spot isn't actually, like if you're looking at the anatomy of a human, they don't go like, here is your G-spot.
Yep.
It's not medically proven. So if you are still desperately searching for yours, don't feel bad. Many studies have shown most women don't orgasm through penetration alone.
Yeah.
So it may not exist for you anyway. But apparently there's more than just the G.
Tell me more.
There is the A-spot.
Okay.
It was discovered in 1997 by Dr. Chua Chi An, who is a Malaysian doctor, also a man.
Of course.
He claims it's also on the anterior wall of the vagina, but just like a lot, and I'm doing lots of hand gestures here, I'm really sorry. It's just a lot further in.
Yeah. Got to make sure you can reach it.
Just get right on in there and you might find the A spot.
Yeah.
There is also the O spot.
Yeah.
And hand gestures are required again because that's even further in.
So are they saying length matters?
Yes. So I'm sorry, but yes, sometimes length will matter because it's near the cervix along the lower back wall of the vagina.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the O shot. Okay, this is a whole other thing.
God, Claire.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting confusing. This is an injection of platelet-rich plasma to the clitoris, which I didn't realize was also a thing, and into the labia too. It's thought to increase sexual function in women, increasing blood flow and generating healthy tissue growth. How many spots do we have? Why is none of this medically proven?
Whoa,
it doesn't really exist.
There are more pleasure spots than streaming services.
And if you've seen my streaming services list, that's a lot.
And I think the real question we need to ask is, how many spots do we need? Okay, so it's starting to sound like we need a full GPS system to navigate pleasure.
100%.
So you've got the G spot, the A spot, the O spot, and the, oh my goodness, it's somewhere over there spot. There's no one size fits all when it comes to pleasure. I think the important thing is letting our listeners know that if you can't find these spots, that's okay.
Like it's fine,
yeah,
right?
that is fine.
Mm-hmm.
What is important is open communication, exploring safely, and never measuring your sexual experience by what a study or a male scientist from the 50s reckons you should be feeling.
Men in the 50s were not really across my erogenous zones?
No.
I'm shocked. But also true, that's a thing. And in this world of very easy access to pornography, like just find what you're comfortable with.
That's right.
If you don't find all your spots, like it's totally fine.
Yeah.
It is checkup time though, Mariam. Today we're talking about a topic that seems to divide a lot of people. Some who say it's the best thing that's ever happened. Those are concerned it's too good to be true. We need to be more careful. We are, of course, talking about weight loss injections.
It's time for the checkup.
All right. In today's checkup, we are talking about weight loss injections. Mariam, can you give us the basics on semaglutide?
Yep.
What is this? How does it work?
Okay, so semaglutide was a medication originally developed to manage type 2 diabetes, but now is also being used for weight loss, which is where all the current buzz is coming from. So how does it actually work? So it's a part of a class of medications called GLP-1 receptor agonists.
Great word. Agonist.
And that's a hormone that your body naturally produces, and it has a few important jobs. It helps regulate your blood sugars by telling your pancreas to release more insulin. It also helps slow down how quickly your stomach empties, so it makes you feel full for a lot longer. It also acts on the brain to reduce your appetite and to kind of give you that feeling of fullness.
This is something that people are talking about quite a bit when they're referencing something called food noise.
Yep.
And if you have not experienced this, it's really hard to explain because it's like you are constantly in the back of your brain is thinking about food. Like it is a constant all day, every day thing.
That noise.
And the discussion around this is that is doing something in your brain to maybe switch that off.
It's given as a once weekly injection and the dose is gradually increased under medical supervision over several weeks to help the body adjust and to minimize side effects, which we see like nausea and constipation, to name a few. It's important to know it's not a quick fix. It works best when paired with lifestyle changes, which is why it's essential that you are kind of linked in with a dietitian or an exercise physiologist and kind of laying down some strong foundations so that when you do get off it, that weight doesn't all come back piling on. And we know that weight loss varies. Some people respond better than others. And like many medications, it might not be suitable for everyone. We look at your full health picture before deciding it's the right option for you. So it can be a very helpful tool for weight loss, but it's just one part of a bigger, more personalized approach to health and weight management.
Can I ask you about some headlines that happened quite recently, especially coming out of Hollywood and that kind of vibe, even from local celebs too? Like we saw Roxy Jacenko come out and say that she'd had issues because she'd essentially overdosed on it. What happens if you do take too much of this stuff?
Yeah, so it's a prescription medication, and I always tell people we always need to start low and slow to avoid overdosing. Taking too much either by starting at a higher dose or using more than prescribed can cause some pretty nasty side effects. So we're talking like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or constipation. In some severe cases, you can get something called pancreatitis, which is inflammation of the pancreas. Some people can get dehydrated or malnourished as well. And just to be clear, more is not better, especially in the initial phases.
So you're not going to
you're not
take a shit ton of it and then lose a shit ton of weight on top of that.
So the meds don't work faster or more effectively if you take extra. It just ups the risk of side effects and it can be dangerous. So each pen contains multiple doses, 1 dose a week, and you've generally got a 4-week supply. So it's not uncommon. It happens before where people accidentally inject the whole pen, so the whole 4-week supply. So there's that accidental overdose. And that tells us that there's like a need for clear instructions from your prescriber or your pharmacist. With many of my patients, I administer the first dose for them and I kind of give them that education on how to administer it to avoid risk of overdose. We also see a lot of people trying to get the medication compounded, or there's counterfeit versions online, generally because of shortages that we're seeing. Please don't go down that road. The versions are unregulated. There's a lot of issues with quality, purity, and incorrect dosages, and there have been hospitalizations overseas because of that. And this is why we take a cautious approach with prescription. There's that gradual increase under medical supervision. It's to get your body to adjust to it, to minimize the side effects. And then we increase it under medical supervision at the appropriate dose. So don't do this ever on your own. It's not, here's the pen, see you later, and go nuts.
Can we backtrack that slightly and ask how, if this is something that I wanted to explore, how do I have this conversation with my doctor? Because it does feel a bit awkward, because it feels like a fad and everyone's doing it, and you don't want to be seen as like jumping on this bandwagon, this easy fix as people are calling it. But also too, there's a lot of conversation around which of these drugs should be for type 2 diabetics only, and sometimes some of them are being prescribed off label, which means that it's not what the TGA says it's for, but it's what your doctor is asking you to use it for. And sometimes your pharmacy can refuse to fill that prescription. How do we have this conversation?
So if you are overweight and you want to trial the medication, just have an open discussion with your GP. Just say, I've heard a lot about these injectables. Do you think they would be appropriate for me? And let's just have a conversation. If you meet the appropriate guidelines for prescription, then I think with a combination of referral to a dietitian, exercise physiologist, they would be appropriate for you. We have a medication called semaglutide. There are 2 medications that fit under that category. One of those is for type 2 diabetes. Now, we know that sometimes these medications can be difficult to find, so sometimes doctors will prescribe that medication off-label for weight loss. That is a little bit difficult because these diabetics then are unable to access that medication because a lot of people are accessing it for weight loss. This is where the second medication comes into play, and this has been prescribed specifically for weight loss. There's a criteria attached to that, so the doctor will go through that and see if you meet that criteria and will prescribe that appropriately if that is appropriate for you.
Okay.
So both of these medications are semaglutide. They're also actually made by the same company. They're the exact same medications. They're in different dosages, so not to get confused. But one is essentially for type 2 diabetes and the other is for weight loss.
Amy Schumer, the comedian, she a little while ago came out and said that she was taking semaglutide and the side effects for her were so chronic and bad that she had to give it away. But she has now very recently come out and said she's switched brands and is actually like she's doing fine on that. Is that a thing?
What's really important is what may work for you may not work for someone else. So whenever I have patients come in, I'm like, your experience with this medication may be very different to your friend's experience. Amy Schumer, she was actually switched to another medication and her experience with that was obviously better. That's not to say that's going to be the same for every patient. So whenever I see people come in, I'm saying this is a very personalized individual journey. If you have side effects that aren't tolerable, then we may change or adjust, move to another medication, but it will be very individualized towards you and your experience.
We've been hearing so many stories around these drugs. They're reportedly changing the eating habits of entire communities so significantly that food scientists working for some of these really ultra-processed food manufacturers are actually right now in labs working to make their foods more addictive to override the effects of semaglutide use. There's even an article recently in the New York Times about this where they mentioned the maker of 2 of the weight loss injections. Their CEO was fielding calls from food industry leaders who are so worried about their jobs because sales of these ultra-processed foods are down that they're working to make these foods what they're calling GLP-1 optimized.
God.
When we have to fight all of that, Mariam, how do we broach this very sensitive topic with our GP?
You're right. You know, we're living in an environment that's really tough to navigate. And it's not just about willpower, which we've been told it is, right? And the fact that, you know, as you mentioned, some food companies are working to create these GLP-1 optimized foods to override these medications just shows you how complicated all of this is. You're right. The truth is food is engineered to be addictive, and that makes eating well genuinely hard. And it's not a personal failure. It's biology, it's psychology, it's marketing, and it's so much more. So when it comes to speaking to your GP, try something like, I've been thinking a lot about how to eat well and how to eat well consistently. Can we talk about that in a way that's supportive and realistic? Because you want to eat well in a way that aligns with your lifestyle.
I definitely have learnt a lot about my relationship with food because of all this conversation going on and understanding that it's like just not me going to the shops. Like I'd go to the shops and say, don't buy chocolate. As I'm telling myself this, I'm reaching for it and putting it in my shopping trolley. Like I never understood what was happening there. And now with all this conversation, I get it. Like these things are engineered for me to override my own basic
Even the
necessities.
way they're put on the shelf and where, you know, your eye contact is, everything is kind of structured in a way that's marketable for us.
Yeah, we've got to take all of that into consideration. Coming up, we are going to be heading into a quick consult because Maddie needs surgery, but a phobia is really holding her back to the point of violence. But next, we ask obesity and weight loss medicine specialist Dr. Jessica McEwan some questions about weight loss injections, including whether once you start, you can never really stop. We are talking about weight loss injections today. And look, if you are on social media or reading anything online, there's approximately, 50 million claims about what they can actually do for the health of women who are struggling both with type 2 diabetes and with weight. So we've enlisted Dr. Jessica McEwan, a bariatrician and GP with a special interest in obesity and weight loss medicine, to help us understand a little bit more about them. And we started out by asking her what weight loss injections actually do in our bodies that allows those who have struggled with weight, sometimes for a really long time, to finally lose it.
It's really interesting because we're actually learning that weight gain and our bodies are so much more complex than we ever really thought. And so the medications are working on quite a complex hormonal system in our body and interacts on lots of different organs in our body. But in terms of weight loss, they're mainly acting on our brain and our stomach. So in our brain, what they're doing is turning that food noise down for people. So making people think about food less often, making them less hungry, which obviously helps when you're trying to lose weight, because that's one of the biggest things people struggle with that have been battling with it for a long time, is that every diet fails because it's hard to be hungry forever. And so that's where the medications are really helpful for people. The other way they work is by holding food in our stomach for longer. So it makes us feel fuller for longer.
There is some suggestion, it's interesting you mentioned about it working on our brains, that it's not just suppressing our appetite or those feelings of hunger, but might also be sort of rewiring our tastes, turning off. A lot of people are calling the industrial palate, which is what we've grown to become accustomed to with ultra-processed foods, and turning that off so that we're less tolerant of those like super sugary, super fatty foods. Could it be that those GLP-1 medications that are working on that area of the brain might also be changing maybe our, dopamine rewards for eating that processed food?
Yeah, it's very possible. We definitely see a reduction in sugar cravings for people when they're using these medications, especially people that have had a bit of a sweet tooth and, they always want a bit of chocolate after dinner. People are like, it just goes away, which is amazing. The other interesting thing is in regards to alcohol. We're seeing a huge reduction in consumption of alcohol in these medications as well. So I think there's definitely a possibility it's working along those pathways.
Well, you mentioned that addiction to certain substances might be a knock-on impact of taking semaglutide, but there is a heck of a lot of information out there right now about the potential benefits and the potential bad side effects of taking these weight loss medications. Can we focus on the potential benefits? Because it seems like every day the list gets longer. So we've already touched on substance abuse, but there's also a perceived impact on psychotic disorders, seizures, things like Alzheimer's disease and dementia, even infectious illnesses, respiratory conditions. Like I've got a list in front of me. It's so long. There's also heart disease, lung issues, at least 10 types of cancers that you can potentially be protected from. How much of these things do we actually know for sure? And what of it is more just we're at the start of understanding?
Most of them we're at the start of understanding is probably the easiest way to answer that question. I guess what we're learning is, like I said, those receptors to the GLP-1 system are all around the body. We're finding out where they are more and more. So we now know they're in the heart. We know they're in the kidneys, the liver. And the other big thing that they seem to have a role in is inflammation. So the medications seem to be able to reduce our inflammation, and inflammation plays a role in so many different conditions. So like you were mentioning respiratory conditions and heart conditions and cancers, like inflammation plays a role in all of those sorts of things. And I think that's probably where it's coming in, but we still don't really know yet. The ones we do know are, so certainly for semaglutide has definitely had evidence around improving heart health for people. And again, the difficulty with the studies is mostly they're done on diabetics at this stage. We're still getting the evidence around our obesity patients, But in our obesity patients, a 20% reduction in major cardiovascular events. So heart attack and stroke are the main ones people would know about that. That's pretty huge.
Can we look at the negative impacts of semaglutide use? Obviously, the biggest one that people talk about are gastrointestinal conditions, feeling nauseous and having trouble going to the toilet. Is that the biggest issue we're seeing with it so far?
Yeah, definitely. By far, the biggest one is the nausea. About 15 to 20% of people experience some form of nausea when they're taking these medications. For most patients, I liken it to like a mild morning sickness. It's annoying but tolerable. But you can have both ends of the extreme. You can have people that have absolutely nothing, and you can have people that are vomiting. And it's really individual and hard to predict. Until you try it, we just don't know how you're going to respond to it. The good news is the side effects tend to get better with time. Over the next, 6 to 8 weeks, as people get used to the medication, it settles down and they get less side effects with it. Fortunately, not at the risk of losing the benefit of the medication. But we do see a worsening of those side effects whenever you increase your dose as well. So at the start and whenever you increase your dose, that's when you're most likely to get those sorts of side effects.
One of the other side effects that people are starting to report now is serious hair loss. But I understand that rapid weight loss, regardless of how you achieve that, also has been linked to hair loss because your body, I understand, prioritizes other essential functions over growing your hair.
That's exactly right.
Could we be looking at the same thing here as it being the rapid weight loss rather than the drug, or is the drug to blame here, you think?
I think that's the consensus at the moment, is that it's more the rapid weight loss element of it. Both the fact that your body's just putting its energy into living because you're feeding it a lot less than what you used to. And secondly, often people are at risk of getting nutrient deficiencies on the medications because you are eating a lot less as well. And you have to sort of prioritize the right food. I talk about it with my patients about getting bang for your buck. You're not putting much in, so you have to make sure you get the right stuff in. And so if you're not doing that, if you're still eating similar foods, even though it's a lot less of what it was and they're more ultra-processed foods, then you're not going to be getting the right nutrients in, and that can definitely increase that hair loss for people. It does seem to settle down once that rapid weight loss phase is over. Even if you're staying on the drugs for maintenance, it starts to improve for people. So I think the consensus really is that it's more likely related to that rapid weight loss phase.
What about bone density issues, Jessica? Because I don't know if you saw this story, but there's a singer called Avery who was initially dropped by her record label for being overweight, which she absolutely was not overweight, but you know how that industry works. She went on semaglutide to lose weight, even though she didn't necessarily need to, and then posted a very emotional video on Instagram saying that it had caused osteoporosis. That's a very big claim, but do we know whether there's any truth to that?
No, we don't know there's any truth to that. Again, the jury's still out on a lot of this stuff. So it's a really tricky thing to figure out without doing the proper studies, and we just don't have the evidence yet.
I think the biggest question people are asking about this use now is when we stop using them, because every bit of research that I've seen is that weight will come back. It's almost a given. So does that mean once you start on a semaglutide or even the other type, like, do we just have to stay on these forever?
Again, an excellent question. And again, the jury is really out on this. So I can tell you what we do know. So what we do know is that the drug studies show us that if you go on it for 12 months, lose some weight, and then come off it, yes, the majority of people start regaining that weight at a slower rate than what they lost it at, but people do start to regain it. We're getting a bit more real world evidence now that if you support people, so you give them dietary and lifestyle support and advice, and you address like the psychological component as well that we have in our relationship with food and the habits we've formed, that people are much more likely to be able to maintain that once they come off the medications. I think the big change that's slowly starting to happen in medicine and hopefully in society as well is recognizing that weight gain and obesity is actually a chronic disease. It's something your genetics is involved in. And if you've got genes that are predisposing you to gain weight or hold on to calories, then that's not going to change. You're going to have to keep battling that for the rest of your life. But what I say to my patients is that the tools you use for that battle will change along the way. So you might need the drugs for a period of time, and then you may be able to come off them and manage it with the other tools that you've got in your kit. But other people might need to stay on them for a longer period of time. We certainly don't have any good evidence that says, okay, if you take this for X years, you know, that is all going to reverse and you're going to be able to do this on your own. But maybe we will maybe we will be able to predict that sort of genetic stuff. But at the moment, it's really about, I think, just changing that mindset of like, one diet is not going to fix this for you. One drug is not going to fix this for you. But you can have more tools in your kit that is going to help you do this successfully and more easily.
Unless we find a way to start scrubbing this stuff off our DNA, it's pretty much just
and I'm sure
using everything we got. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. McEwan. There are literally thousands more questions I could potentially have asked her, but we don't have a 4-hour podcast, Mariam. What do you think about all of that discussion? Like, so many interesting points and things that we don't really fully understand and know about them yet.
I really like what she said about obesity being a chronic disease. It's not just about willpower or salad choices. For many people, there's that strong genetic predisposition. And for many people, their relationship with food, stresses, and habits formed over the years have a big part to play with it. That's why alongside the medication, we always recommend those diet and lifestyle changes. Psychological input is also really important. We need to work on those deeper patterns as well.
And that's why it's fine if any of you have ever joked, like me and my sister and my cousin have, we're like, we have Irish heritage. So we're like, if you look and built like a potato farmer, like that is your genetics. You can't fight that. And, you know, my people lived through a potato famine and they didn't do that by being very skinny humans. All right. So just
can't fight genetics.
Cannot fight genetics. Next, it is time for a quick consult. What do you do when you desperately need surgery, but a phobia is holding you back?
The doctor will see you now just through here to consult room 1.
In the consult room today, Dr. Mariam, I didn't do this last week and people have called me out on this. You need to welcome us into the consult room.
Thank you for waiting. How can I help you?
She's back, people. Maddie has sent us in a question, and I really want to say thank you to everyone who is doing this. I'm having some great conversations in the DMs with. I'm not giving the medical advice. Don't worry. We'll wait until you answer these questions.
Well, you're practically a doctor now.
I
anyway.
mean, practically an MD. Why not? But we're getting a great stack and really good variety of questions, so keep them coming. Maddie has a phobia, and she needs your help today, Mariam. She wrote this.
I am deathly afraid of needles. I once accidentally kicked a nurse trying to take blood because I was so scared of her trying to put the needle in. I have to have surgery to get my wisdom teeth removed, and I'm so freaked out by the needle situation, I might just not get it done. Is there a way I can try and overcome my needle phobia?
Okay, you are not alone. I've had many patients flinch, bolt, and I've almost been punched a few times during blood draws. So you're in good company. So needle phobia, the medical term is Bullen phobia. It's very real. Up to 30% of young adults have significant fear around needles and often starts in childhood, which is where we want to address it. Otherwise, it just carries through.
But also like valid fear.
Yeah, it is valid fear. So
like no one wants to be punctured. I get it.
No, of course not. No one goes out asking for
please make my blood come out. Like it's not a rational thing.
Yeah, right. And it's one of the top reasons why people avoid vaccines, blood tests, and even surgery. So there are ways to management. So here in Australia, the University of SA has trialled strategies like something called divided attention, which I use for a lot of kids who come in for vaccinations. And it's a distraction game where you guess where the nurse taps your arm. And then there's positive memory reframing. So it's reminding you how brave you were the last time you were and reinforcing that you do have coping skills. And we can also use these with adults.
I was going to say, I've seen plenty of TikTok videos of little kids getting this done, but like
also
Maddie's not a baby.
But really also works with adults as well. So the Melbourne Vaccine Education Centre also has some great tips, and they say try not to overthink it. So a lot of people will spend, the weekend prior or days leading up to blood draws or surgeries just really thinking about it and just...
Can I just say in their defence, being told not to overthink something makes you overthink it more.
I know. It's hard, but just focus on what you can control. I get a lot of my patients to use a numbing cream. It's TGA approved, so you can buy it over the counter from the pharmacist. So if it's for a blood draw, for instance, I just get them to whack it on about 30 minutes prior to coming in. And
It's the
just
same stuff you get when you get a tattoo.
Yeah.
FYI.
Or laser for some people.
Or your ears pierced. Lots of things.
And so some people just look away and then, they don't have to worry about anything. Distraction is king. So headphones, cat videos, stress balls, or a podcast. Well,
like this one, if you will.
And it's really important you tell your doctor, nurse, or your treating team, we're not here to judge. It's important that we know so we can kind of facilitate it for you and make you really comfortable and give you that support. Now, for those who are really struggling, there's psychological support we can offer as well. Can be short-term therapy. We can refer you for CBT, desensitization techniques, even hypnosis. It's not woo-woo. I promise it works. And so if your fear is intense from stopping you from doing an important procedure like your wisdom tooth surgery, don't be embarrassed. There's actual support for this. Putting it off could mean more complications down the track. So thinking of infection, pain, and delayed recovery as well. And if the needle part that's holding you back, speak to your surgical team now. There's options that they can offer, whether that's, sedatives or other options. They can discuss that with you prior. So just don't go in there or delay it because you're afraid. Just speak to them now. Don't put it off any further. That would be my advice.
Who helped my kid when she had surgery told her a story about a magical flying cow. So if that works for you, feel free to use that one.
Needles might be sharp, but so are you. You've got this.
Look at her with her positive affirmations.
You got
I love
this.
it. Maddie, good luck. We really hope you're able to get on top of this because, we know it's important to take care of your health. And if getting your wisdom teeth out is necessary, it is necessary. So good luck, lady. Thank you for spending some time with us on Well today for your full body health check. Don't forget, if you have questions, whether you want to remain anonymous or don't mind putting your name to them. I have no shame. I'm happy to do so. You can find our email address, voice note service, and the waiting room. It's all in our show notes if you want to go in there and grab it. And while you're there, if you want some more information, we can arrange to have that
Information.
I think I just went fancy for a moment there. Information can be sent right to your inbox. All you got to do is sign up for the Well newsletter. Next week, we're speaking about body longevity.
Amazing. I can't wait for this one.
And when we say this, we don't mean like the tech bro body longevity who are wanting to live to 100 and look weirdly like plastic weird Ken dolls, not that kind of longevity, but how we as women can live our longest, healthiest lives.
Our best life.
Our best lives. Remember the advice you've heard here today. It's general. It may not suit your needs. Speak to your doctor or health specialist. Get the information that's right for you. And we'll see you for your appointment this time next week.
Bye-bye.
Well is produced by me, Claire Murphy, and our group executive producer, Georgie Page, and senior producer, Sasha Tannock, with audio production by Scott Stronach.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hi, I'm obstetrician Dr. Patrick Maloney.
And I'm Bridget Maloney. We're the hosts of The Kick, the pregnancy podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about making and growing a tiny human.
We cover it all with expert information and evidence-based discussion based on our experience of running a women's clinic and being parents to 4 boys.
From morning sickness to birth plans, strange cravings to baby movements, listen to The Kick wherever you get your podcasts.